Okay, alright, let's get serious now, people. We're done talking about the Straw Hats, alright? That motley crew of rubber boys and sexy big busted navigators and cyborgs and rock and roll loving skeletons. It's time we talk about a real pirate here. Yeah, see, here's the thing. We all know One Piece, the main cast are pirates. They're the Straw Hat Pirates. But if Oda actually had the Straw Hats behaving in a very kind of pirate-like way, in the traditional sense, like historical context, where the Straw Hats were like going from island to island and like murdering and pillaging and burning shit down and like kidnapping people, I don't think they would be as likable. I have this weird sense that Shueisha would not get behind this, a story where the main cast are a bunch of wanton murderers and plunderers, you know what I mean? Yeah, historical pirates did not behave exactly the same way as the Straw Hats did. They were not nearly as nice. Or even in pirates in modern society, you know, we have the whole issue with Somalian pirates going on here. So yeah, and there was even a group of pirates that were caught on video a few years back, and they were actually using Shanks' Jolly Roger. So that's a weird little connection there between One Piece and real-world pirates that are actually doing really messed up things. But it's always good to remind your audience of the humble origins of what a real pirate is, and that comes in spades when you're talking about EUSTASS Kid and the Kid Pirates. These guys are legit. Now, it's important to remember that Kid still wants the same basic dream as a lot of other pirates in the world, including Luffy. He wants to go and try to find the One Piece, the greatest treasure in the world, you know, left by Goldie Roger, king of the pirates. It's just that he takes a little bit more of a traditional kind of proactive approach, really. In the sense that, yeah, he'll arrive at your town and he might have an adventure on the island, but, you know, before or after he burns the thing down, you know, it's all in the business, really. It's just what he does. And of course, because Kid is such a terrifying figure in the Grand Line, you would think that his epithet is equally as terrifying. But it isn't. It's actually really unimaginative. His epithet is, he's EUSTASS Captain Kid. Are the Marines the one that come up with these epithets, or is it like the pirates that call themselves their little nicknames, and it just catches on? I would imagine it's like 50-50, because I don't think Luffy was calling himself Straw Hat Luffy until the Marines started calling him Straw Hat Luffy. That's really kind of redundant. Did you take a page out of, like, Sonic from One Punch Man? Did he help you with that name? It's like the Marines are, like, looking down the pirate ship heading toward them, and they're like, "Sir, that's the Kid pirate crew. We better watch out for their captain, EUSTASS Captain Kid." I'm like, well, what was the point of saying captain twice there? That's so redundant. Yeah, especially since his first mate, Killer, which is already a ball-ass name. I mean, come on now, your name is just Killer. You don't really need an epithet at that point, but they gave him the name the Massacring Soldier, or the Murder Machine in some of the English dubs. I'm like, alright, that's what I'm talking about. That's something like, here's the freaking Murder Machine coming at us. But just the captain, I mean, like, alright. I mean, I guess he should feel lucky, because, you know, captain, to be the one pirate out of the entire Supernovas, all these well-known pirates in the world, there's Yonko out there, and he alone actually has the epithet of captain, so I guess he should feel proud of that. But I mean, come on, I could think of cool, better ones, like the Magnetic Manhandler, or the Hard Rocker Kid, or hell, I mean, he's already decked out in all this red, and he's a ginger, so call him like Bloody Nightmare Kid or something. I don't know, I'm just throwing stuff out there, something better than just captain. But I guess simplicity is in, you know, I guess that's imposing enough in the One Piece world. When you have the name captain already as your epithet, you're like, alright, I guess we should stay away from that guy, right? Right, so Kid and Killer and his pirate crew were introduced first at Sabaody along with all the other Supernovas, and it was Shocky that was the one that actually brought it up. Shocky was explaining to Luffy in her bar about all the different, you know, high-ranking pirates that were on the the island, and that they were called the Supernovas, and they're the strongest rookies in the first half of the Grand Line that have over 100 million berry bounties. So obviously at this point, Luffy, who had a 300 million berry bounty, and Zoro, who had 120, they were already part of the Supernovas, but she was going through all the other ones. And then finally we cap it off with her announcing that there's actually a pirate on the island that has a higher bounty than Luffy. And at the time, that was a big deal, because we knew about, like, the Yonko at this point in the story, but we didn't know about the Yonko's, like, commanders, or, like, really how high bounties could get. Luffy's bounty of 300 million at this point in the story was one of the highest bounties that we had ever even heard of. I think Doflamingo's was mentioned to be higher than this, but his was, like, frozen because he became a warlord. And I think Kuma's might have been higher than this as well. But there wasn't a lot of bounties at this point higher than 300 million. That was something that was like, okay, that's really badass for Luffy. But then Shocky brings up, no, there's actually this pirate called EUSTASS Captain Kidd, and he has a bounty of 315 million. And then that was kind of a moment where we're all like, whoa, okay, so this guy shall not be messed with, you know? And she goes on to say the reason why his bounty is a little bit higher than Luffy's is because while Luffy, think of all the crazy stuff Luffy's done at this point. I mean, Luffy, you know, he beat the crap out of Crocodile, he burned down the flag at Eni's lobby, he basically, it was because of the Straw Hat Pirates, the entire island got leveled. I mean, not really, but of course they're gonna pin that on him. All this stuff that Luffy has done, and Kid still has a higher bounty because there's much more of a higher casualty death toll whenever Kid is rocking through town. He doesn't just care about Marines, which Luffy has totally killed Marines before. Like, let's just be straight with that right now. I mean, there's been plenty of moments in the story where Luffy's, like, knocking people off of ships and punching them really hard. I mean, those are shark-infested waters. Luffy has definitely killed Marines before. There are plenty of scenes, like, you know, when he's running through Impel Down and, like, the guards of Impel Down, those are government workers. They're getting knocked into, like, you know, flaming vats of boiling blood. You know, Luffy is definitely kind of cold-blooded sometimes. They just don't mention it all too much. But with Kid, it's not even just the government or the Marines. It's just ordinary, just average civilians just living in a village. Yeah, I'm imagining these little peaceful villages scattered throughout all the Grand Line Islands, and then, you know, there are a bunch of people just living happy lives there. Like, it's like, oh man, we gotta bring in the harvest today. Alright, well, we're gonna go hunting. Okay, you be careful, little Billy, when you go play with your sister next to that well. And it's just so picturesque, and then all of a sudden the dark clouds appear over the island, and then Kid rocks out from his pirate crew, and it's just like, yeah, he cares not for this picturesque scenario. And this status of having a higher bounty than Luffy, that even carries over after the time skip, where Luffy attained a bounty of 400 million. Now, granted, he wasn't very active in the past 2 years, but still, you know, the whole crap with Marineford and probably the revelation that he's Dragon's son, that's probably another big reason why his bounty got boosted from 300 to 400 million. But at the beginning of the time skip, Kid already had 470 million. So still, even a little higher than Luffy. At the moment, Luffy's bounty is higher. But it's still interesting to note how active, you know, Kid was throughout those years, and he was still much more terrifying than Luffy, even after all the crap Luffy did at Marineford, and he's the son of the, you know, the head of the Revolutionary Army. The Marines still, you know, had it pertinent to give Kid a higher bounty. Now, in terms of just the power that Kid exhibits, well, after the time skip, he most likely knows hockey and all that stuff, and of course, we've already established he has no scruples, but he also has a devil fruit power. Now, the devil fruit that Kid has actually not been named yet, but considering it's such like a simple, basic kind of effect, it's probably not going to be something really elaborate. We could probably guess what it's going to be rather simply. It's not like Hawkins' devil fruit that could either be like the straw fruit or the magic fruit, the voodoo fruit. All of those names would probably, describe Hawkins' fruit rather well, but with Kid's fruit, it's pretty clear that he just has the magnet fruit. That's pretty much what he's got. He has the ability to manipulate magnetic forces, either with his signature technique, Repel, which allows him to just, push everything magnetic away from him, as in the case of like a cannonball hurtling right for him, with force. A cannonball being fired out of a cannon, and Kid was just able to stop that in midair right in front of him, and then repel it right back with magnetic forces of attraction and repulsion. Along with that, he also has the ability to draw magnetic objects towards him, to the point where he can make giant arms or weapons out of his body, you know, extending outwards, so giving him much longer reach and much more destructive power. And something else interesting is that after the time skip, there's a few changes to his design. Well, one thing, he has a badass scar on the side of his face, but the other thing is that he might have lost an arm over the course of the 2-year time skip. We don't know for certain yet, but every time that we've seen Kid after the time skip, he has a metal prosthesis, it looks like, in place of his arm. Now, we've seen him do that before the time skip, you know, gather all the metal material, like guns and scrap iron and you know, like bolts and nails and everything, and, you know, he covers his entire arm with it, but we've only seen him with this arm after the time skip. Like, we've never seen him, you know, like, take it off or anything like that, so it's very possible that Kid got into a fight, like, thought that he was a little bit more badass than he really was, picked a fight with another Yonko aside from Kaido, and got, or maybe a commander of one of the Yonkos, and got all manhandled, and got the scar, lost an arm, and then just using his devil fruit power, he could just create himself a metal prosthesis. The only issue with that is that Kaido beat the crap out of him and then chucked him into a cell. And in the cell, I don't think he had C-Prism handcuffs on. I mean, it's not like you would really need it when Kaido is the one guarding you, because this was like Kaido's like quarters, like where he was staying at, and Kid was just there. So I don't think you would really need to worry about handcuffs at this point. I'm just saying that if he did have C-Prism stone on him, then, you know, he probably wouldn't be able to maintain the prosthesis, but I'm pretty sure he didn't have handcuffs on in that scene. He just got the crap beat out of him by Kaido and just got chucked in a cell right next to Kaido. Like, why would Kaido care about? It doesn't matter if he had if he had C-Prism stone or not. He already beat the crap out of him once with devil fruit powers active, so, you know, that's the case there. And I know that Kid's devil fruit might not seem that complicated, and it's really not, because it's just basic magnetism. It's just he can attract metal objects toward him with magnetism, and he can repel metal objects away from him with magnetism, and I'm sure Kid can come up with a bunch of, like, really clever ways on how to use his fruit, as we've already seen him do that. But just to give you a little bit, just a general rundown on, like, magnetism itself, like how it works, there's actually a few different types of magnetism, but the two ones that are, like, important here are ferromagnetism and diamagnetism. And ferromagnetism is the concept of actually creating a permanent magnet. Diamagnetism is just being attracted to a permanent magnet. And most substances are a diamagnetic. I only bring this up because you have Kid using his power, and he can draw things toward him, like, probably from various different kinds of metal. Like, the Marines' guns are drawn to him, nails and screws and all this different kind of scrap iron. Pretty much any kind of metal around him is being drawn to him. So just think of Kid himself as like the ultimate ferromagnet, where he is the permanent magnet itself. And there's not a lot of substances, by the way, that can actually become permanent magnets. Iron is one, nickel and cobalt are the other two that are like the really big ones, and they're all conveniently right next to each other on the periodic table. So yeah, that's one to explain that there, as if there were actual people reading One Piece and sitting there wondering about Kid's devil fruit power and being like, I wonder if any of those metal materials that he was attracting toward him were iron or steel, or I wonder if he could attract things like copper or aluminum or silver toward him because they're not very magnetic. I wonder if that's ever going to play a role in the One Piece story. Well, I don't know, but I'm probably the only person to ever talk about it, so there you go. Something else, though, about Kid is, despite the fact that he is not a very nice guy, and he's certainly somebody you don't want to run into, he's at least honest about what he does. Like, one of his big moments was when he arrived at the auction house, and he was witnessing the world nobles, you know, and the way they act, and Kami being auctioned off and everything, and Kid basically had a line that was like, you know, they call us criminals. They call the pirates of the world's criminals, when these guys are just as demented and sick as we are. In fact, maybe more so. I mean, basically, at least we're honest about it. That was what Kid basically said. He's like, yeah, these, you know, they say pirates are evil, but you're every bit as evil, you know, referring to the world nobles. We're just more honest about ourselves, you know. We're not trying to hide behind this veil of us being so great. No, we're the world government. We're the right. We're the true. We're justice. Bullshit, you're not Justice. You've never been Justice. So that was pretty neat. And then you have Kid himself and his pirate crew fighting against a pacifista. Law shows up and helps him out. That's one of the fights that I really wish we would have gotten to see more of. Law and Kid fighting together, one of these pacifistas there. That would have been neat to actually see in its entirety there, but we don't really get to see that. Eventually, they all did manage to escape Sabaody in one piece. And then later we see all the other Supernovas, as well as Kid and Law and everybody at Marineford. Kid is watching the end of the war, like Shanks showing up and everything, and Kid is actually the first person to mention all of the Yonko's names. We previously already knew about Whitebeard and Shanks, and then Moria mentioned Kaido, but Kid was actually the first person to mention Big Mom, the name of the fourth Yonko. I remember reading that. I remember back being in high school and reading One Piece weekly at the end of Marineford and wondering, I wonder who the fourth Yonko is. And we find out it's Big Mom from Kid. So thanks, buddy. You helped us out a lot there. Going on to his first mate now, Killer. Not really much to talk about Killer. And Killer is another supernova as well. He has a bounty of, I think it was 160 million. When he arrived at Sabaody, and or was it 120? I forget which. I might have actually confused Zoro's and Killer's bounties there, because they're the two supernovas that are not actually captains of their own crew. All the other supernovas are captains except for Killer and Zoro, because their captains are so strong and so wanted by the world government that they themselves are supernovas, as well as the top-ranking crew on their respective pirate ships are also supernovas. That's how famous they are. So Zoro and Luffy, supernovas, Killer and Kid. And Killer we don't know much about, so I really can't make a separate video about him, doing the worst generation. When I was actually doing the randomize to find out which order I was going to go in, Killer was the first one, and I'm like, well, I can't do a video just about Killer. That would be like 4 minutes long. But okay, what do we know about Killer? Alright, well, he wears a pretty, seems impractical kind of helmet that doesn't really look like he could see or eat. Oh, actually, no, he can eat spaghetti. That's actually how he eats. Oda's specified that, so thanks for clarifying. He also has got these two freaking rotating, scythe blades on his arms. So I guess that's understandable where he got the name, the murder machine, or the slaughter bot, or whatever you want to call him. Actually, he might be part cyborg, for all we know. I mean, he has machine in the title. I mean, it might just be because he has the rotating gyro death blades, and he's just so tough. It's like he's like a machine. You can't take him down, He took like 3 freaking bullet shots to the face, and he's still coming at you, like cutting you down. Or he could be part cyborg. At least his arms could be. You just never know. After the time skip, it does appear like he got an upgrade on his arms, or at least he didn't attach the gyro death blades to them. But that's the case there, and we can see he's obviously really built. But we just don't know a lot about his personality, really. Like, he doesn't talk very much. He seems to calm down Kid. He seems to be like one of the more rational ones on the crew. Go figure, the guy that's the slaughter machine, murder bot, and his name is just Killer, is the most rational out of your entire pirate crew. But, whenever Kid was getting kind of, pissed off at, Hawkins or at Pooh during the meeting for the alliance that they were all getting together for, Killer was the one that's like, all right, Captain, calm down now. We gotta deal with this now. We gotta sort all this out here. We're gonna have an alliance. We gotta play nice. So he's more rational than anything else. I would assume that if the Kid Pirates were ever gonna face off against the Straw Hats at one point, it would be Luffy, Kid, and then Zoro, Killer, which would make for a pretty cool fight. I mean, Zoro, three-sword style, and then, Killer using his scythe blades, and pulling out probably a bunch of other... I mean, if his name is Killer, he's probably got multiple ways to ice a guy, you know what I mean? I'm probably sure he's got a bunch of weapons on him. I wouldn't be surprised if he was a cyborg, just a more battle-centric cyborg and focusing more on bladed weaponry as opposed to, Frankie, who focuses more on, firearms and cannons and stuff like that. I can imagine it now, Killer fighting against Zoro. Zoro cuts off his gyro death blades, and he's like, what are you gonna do now? Huh. And Killer just, reaches into his back, pulls out, a giant saw blade, a katana pops out of his shoulder, or something like that. That would be pretty sweet. So maybe we'll get something like that, though. Maybe we'll get a big reveal of his face. He's fighting against somebody and his mask gets destroyed. And I'm just going to call it right now because everybody's kind of already assumed this. Most people assume this whenever you see, a really gruff kind of guy wearing a mask, is he's going to turn out to be super Bishonen. Oh my god, he was so attractive this entire time. So, fine, let's just go with the stereotype there and keep that up. There are a few other members of the Kid pirate crew that we do have names for. Kid's pirate crew is based around like 1980s hard rock, sort of like heavy metal kind of motif or like aesthetic, you know. So we could see that with his pirate ship. He's got the skulls everywhere. The names of his crew members, you know, you got Killer, you got this dried out mummy guy named Heat, and then you got this other dude who's dressed up like he's supposed to be in the background of a Black Sabbath video, and he's just named Wire, as I'm sure probably Razor Wire would be like something that might be indicative of his ability, dressed up like the freaking devil. He's got like a pitchfork with him. Heat is able to breathe fire, probably not because of a devil fruit, probably just because of, I don't know. I mean, we're going with the stage show aesthetic here, so, you know, you got the fire shooting out everywhere when you're at a freaking heavy metal show, so that's probably what that's harkening back to. Kid himself wears makeup. He has lipstick and, like, he paints his nails and everything like that. So, I mean, like, you might think that's funny, and sure, you can make fun of him for it. It just seems like, you better get your yucks in, because that'll be the last 5 seconds you spend on this earth. You know, like, let's go back to the scenario before, where a bunch of, like, people are living in a happy village, and everyone's nice, and like, oh, okay, there's little Charlie, he's the neighborhood dog, he's so adorable. And then Kid's pirates rock out from the freaking harbor, and they arrive in the village, and like, hey, what's going on? And they're like, that's some nice lipstick you have there, young lady. Yeah, okay, so, yeah, maybe that's the reason why he burns the islands down, because people keep making fun of his makeup, his stage makeup, every time he shows up at an island. No, that's not the reason. He takes great glee in just doing it for no reason. Like, the first scene we have after he arrives in the New World is, stringing up a bunch of people on an island, as it's being torched. Granted, I think they were a rival pirate crew. I don't think they were civilians, because I think they were pirates that he was attacking. So maybe every now and then Kid is maybe the good guy, because maybe if he arrives and, you know, takes out the pirate crew that was already attacking the island, but he's not going to be friendly to the townspeople, okay? He's a very much kind of take charge. He shows up, you know, I was like, all right, you know, give me some ale, give me some food, or I burn the island down. And I might even burn the island down if you do give me those things. But yeah, I mean, hey, they're pirates. What do you want? Okay, they're not supposed to be good people. So, during the Alliance, you had an alliance between Kid Pirates and the on-air pirates led by Scratchman Apu, and then you had the Hawkins Pirates, and they were all getting together for an alliance to try to take down one of the Yonko. Which of the Yonko they're trying to take down? Red-haired Shanks, of course. Mostly because I think Kid is just pissed off that he's the most famous ginger in the world, and we can't have that. He's like, that's my street cred. Now, I have a theory that the injuries that Kid has on his body are actually caused by either, if not Shanks, one of the higher-ranking members in the Red Hair Pirate crew, like Ben Beckman or Lucky Roo. Somebody was the one that caused the injuries, because Kid is not the kind of guy, and he was kind of even against it, the alliance. He was kind of like, you know, that's what Killer had to kind of calm him down, like, I don't want to freaking alliance. I think what happened was Kid got, you know, bigger for his britches, tried to attack an island, or tried to attack a fleet that Shanks' crew was connected to, got the absolute shit kicked out of him, got the scar, lost his arm, and realized that the only way that they were going to be able to defeat a Yonko is if they allied together with other members of the worst generation, so that's why he allied Hawkins and Apu and their respective crews. And he was begrudging, he didn't want to do it, but he wanted to kind of show Shanks what happened, and that's why they had to get together. And it was, and to maybe add to this theory a little bit, I believe it was Killer was the one that actually mentioned who their target was. Like, okay, everybody, calm down. We all know who our target is, red-haired Shanks. So maybe Apu and Hawkins also had like a run-in with Shanks at one point. Maybe that's why those three particular are getting together for the alliance. But it doesn't really matter because it was kind of cut short when Kaido fell out of a freaking out of the sky after falling from Balloon Terminal, which is a sky island, landed on the island where the pirates were having this alliance. Just bad luck, really. Splits almost the entire island in half. You know, Kaido gets out of the hold and he's like, oh, I have a headache. And then all the other, like, Kid and Hawkins and Apu, they're, like, looking at him. And the next time we see them, we see Apu now working for Kaido. We see Kid getting, just beat to hell and then inside of a cage. And we don't know what happened with Hawkins. I'm assuming Hawkins is also working with Kaido. I'm sure Hawkins pulled out his tarot cards pretty quick and is like, yeah, we can't beat this guy. And then Kid was like, oh, screw that! And then he got the shit beat out of him by Kaido. And that's when Kaido was like, he probably, like, had a headache, and he's like, oh, man, I have a headache. Kid's like, how dare you! Oh! And Kaido's like, what the... just flicks him down, and he breaks his neck or something like that. And that's where we're at right now. We don't know what happened with Killer, and the rest of the Kid pirates. I'm assuming they're just working for Kaido, and because they have to, basically. It's like, well, we can't leave our captain to die. They're not that horrible. They're not the kind of, traitorous kind of pirates. So they're like, all right, we gotta stand by our captain, but our captain is so hot-headed that... he's beaten up and he's in the cell, but we can't leave, so we have to stay here and wait for him to maybe get out and try to, like, talk him to, like, okay, we have to listen to what Kaido says right now, but then after this, we can maybe escape and maybe try to take him out. And, Kid's not an idiot. He's not an idiot, he's just hot-headed and very violent kind of guy, so he's like, the violence is always the first thing he probably jumps to, but I'm sure after he got the shit beat out of him, he would realize, okay, I got the crap beat out of me, so I'm not just going to keep on attacking over and over again, because that's not going to work, so I got to try to get an alliance to do it. Or I tried to attack Kaido, and it didn't work, so we got to try something else. That's the kind of thing I think at least Kid would process. He's rather hot-headed, rather tend to violent tendencies, but he's not an idiot. Yeah, so, and we can even see this as a glare when we see him as his childhood. Oda drew all the, supernovas as kids, and we see him there work. I would imagine he was growing up on sort of like a, I don't know, a mechanical island, maybe similar to like the Scrap Island that was next to Water 7. We're probably going to get a depressing backstory for Kid. He was growing up in, like, basically the Gray Terminal 2.0, and he was, like, poor, and he learned to work with metal, like, metallurgy and stuff like that, and, I don't know, his parents were drunks, and they beat the crap out. Maybe, I don't know, probably something like that is going to be the backstory, probably going to feel for him pretty bad there. Yeah, Oda also made a point to draw all the supernovas as the Rule 63, the gender bent thing. Like I said, ever since Ivankov arrived in the story, you had to have that, I guess. So, here's Rule 63, Kid. Yeah, that's okay, sure. Yeah. So, oh, by the way, in case you're curious, I'm not going to do Blackbeard. I know Blackbeard has been roped in with the worst generation now on top of the supernovas. But I already did a video about him for the 7 Warlords. Blackbeard is, like, in all the different groups. Did you notice that? He is a Warlord at one point. He's a Yonko now. He's also a member of the Worst Generation, along with the Supernovas. Pretty soon it's going to be revealed that he was a long-lost member of the Gorosei or something. Just have it be part of, and he was part of the Whitebeard crew. Just have him, like, part of every group in One Piece. That's Blackbeard, Okay, anyway, thanks for watching the video. The next member of the Supernovas that we will be discussing, let's have the list right here. X-Drake, or Diaz-Drake, however you want to pronounce that, but that's a good one. We got a lot of stuff to talk about with X-Drake. You got a former Marine, turned traitor. You got Karibo on his crew now, and Karibo, also remember, is one of the very few people in the world that know the secret identity of Poseidon, the ancient weapon on Fishman Island. And now X-Drake also has possession of that knowledge. So yeah, that should be a fun video. So, oh, and he also has the whole past with Law. So this is going to be really fun. Catch you back here next time, guys. Signing out.